Right now, what started as a police chase ends in a fatal officer-involved shooting. New information tonight from Beloit.
And how a new trade deal just approved today in Washington will help struggling dairy farmers here in Wisconsin.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 10.
First, we do have breaking news tonight. The Middleton Cross Plains School District has canceled class tomorrow at the high school and the Clark Street Community School due to what they are calling a serious threat posted by a student on social media. The district says the threats are specific to the high school campuses and involve multiple Instagram posts. Elementary and middle schools will remain in session, but with an increased police presence and no outdoor recess. Also new tonight, police found a BB gun inside a student's backpack today at Madison East High School. According to Madison.com, parents received an email from the district this evening saying a student reported a classmate may have a BB gun at the school. The resource officer found the gun in the backpack just minutes later, and police are now investigating.
A man is dead after a car and foot chase in Beloit this morning. Police say 3 officers shot and killed the armed suspect in the 1800 block of Harrison Avenue. Tonight, we're hearing from people who live in that area and from the officers as they were responding. Madeline O'Neill is back from Rock County tonight with the latest.
The Wisconsin Department of Criminal Justice is investigating what led up to this fatal shooting, which left a heavy police presence in a Beloit neighborhood all day today.
Well, I've been here 96 years, so I just like Beloit.
Longtime resident Daisy Smithson has spent decades living here on Harrison Avenue.
Well, I like living in the neighborhood because we were all friends.
When she saw police lights coming in her window,
I wonder what's going on because, you know, I'm really not out that much.
I got shots fired on a vehicle.
what was going on was the end result of a police chase just a block away.
Speed southbound at Harrison. I'm going to probably lose it here.
It began about a half mile from Daisy's home at Henry Avenue and Riversdale Drive, when at 1:15 a Rock County Sheriff's Office deputy reported what he thought might be a stolen vehicle, along with shots fired.
We heard about 6 shots. Vehicle eastbound on Henry.
Police say an armed suspect got out of the vehicle and ran.
Boy, we got running north through Harrison.
Officers found the suspect just before 12:30 in the 1800 block of Harrison Avenue.
My shots fired. Suspect has a gun. Multiple shots.
He was observed to be armed. 3 Beloit officers fired at the suspect, who received fatal injuries. The suspect was pronounced deceased at 12:25 p.m.
The 1-block area remained taped off into the night as authorities investigated. Some neighbors say the violence around their homes is just getting worse, pointing to another fatal shooting just a block down on Harrison Avenue about a year ago. But Daisy's not packing up her bags anytime soon.
Yes, it's scary, but I'm not afraid.
No officers are injured from this, and 3 nearby schools were placed on a soft lockdown during today's incident. Police aren't providing any more information tonight, but say all 3 officers are on administrative duty while the state investigates as is protocol with officer-involved shootings.
This was in Jersey City, New Jersey, a neighborhood that had the look of a war zone today. A shootout between police and armed suspects. When it was over, 6 people, including a police officer, were dead. The incident started at a cemetery where police had stopped 2 people for questioning. The police chief says that's where the officer was shot and killed before the suspects barricaded themselves inside a supermarket and opened fire with high-powered rifles. When it ended, police found 5 people dead inside. 2 of them were suspects, the others civilians.
The Navy has suspended flight training for more than 300 Saudi military students in the wake of last week's shooting at the naval base in Pensacola, Florida. The shooting was carried out by a Saudi student that killed 3 people and wounded 8 others. A motive for the attack is still unknown. The stand-down will impact 3 bases in the Pensacola and Jacksonville area. And new information tonight about the deadly UPS truck hijacking that ended in a massive shootout on a major Florida highway. At least 18 officers fired their weapons during that shootout. Last Thursday, 2 robbery suspects, a bystander, and a hostage UPS driver were shot and killed during a shootout with police.
Turning things over to weather now, the bitter cold certainly settling in. Temperatures will dip below freezing tonight and tomorrow morning, but maybe some warm up not too far away. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti with our first alert forecast.
Temperatures will actually be in the single digits above zero by early tomorrow morning. We could be looking at wind chills down to around 10 degrees below zero, but it'll be a brief cold snap. We should warm up again for Thursday and Friday. Time lapse from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam in Platteville shows sunny skies over southwestern Wisconsin today. Just a few clouds starting to move in late in the afternoon into the evening hours. That might keep temperatures up a bit over southwestern Wisconsin. High temperatures today right around the 20-degree mark. In fact, Madison right at 20. But you can see current temperatures now are down to 10 in Madison and in the single digits to the west and north of Madison. Wind chills right now are below zero here in town. A few places are down to around 10 below zero north and west of the Dells. By tomorrow morning, temperatures will be in the single digits. Look for the possibility for wind chills down to as cold as 10 below zero in Madison. Tomorrow will be a sunny day, but it'll still be very cold with a high of 18. Later on, I'll take a look at the forecast. It includes a warm up for Thursday and Friday and another shot of colder air for the weekend.
Gary, thanks. New tonight, a federal judge in Texas has blocked the Trump administration from using billions of dollars in Pentagon funds for the construction of the border wall. Back in September, the Secretary of Defense authorized diverting $3.6 billion in military construction funds for 11 wall projects along the border. House Democrats have announced 2 articles of impeachment against the president stemming from their investigation into his dealings with Ukraine. The president insists he did nothing wrong. A full House vote could come as early as next week. The 2 charges are narrow in scope: abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. There's no mention of bribery, extortion, or obstruction of justice, issues that Democrats had debated.
President Trump engaged in unprecedented, categorical, and indiscriminate defiance of the impeachment inquiry.
The way they have handled this from the very beginning, I know they set a timeline and they wanted to keep their timeline. They just never paid attention to the facts.
The president has said he looks forward to a trial in the Republican-controlled Senate, which is expected early next year. Before a Senate trial, the Judiciary Committee must first debate and pass the articles of impeachment, then send them to the full House for a vote.
And on the same day as unveiling their articles of impeachment, House Democrats announced a big deal with the White House on trade. The 2 say they have a deal to move forward with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, President Trump's long-promised replacement of NAFTA. The White House wanted the deal finalized before the 2020 election, but House Democrats pushed for more provisions on labor, environment, and pharmaceuticals. This deal was great news to Wisconsin dairy farmers today, who have been hoping for revised trade with 2 of their top exporters in the world. Amy Reed joins us now to show us what they are most excited for in this new agreement.
Yeah, dairy farmers have been going through kind of a rough time in the last few years. There's a lot packed into why, but the man I talked to today said trade deals that didn't work in their favor were the final nail. But even with a House vote on this coming as soon as next week, industry experts warn there's still work to be done on trade.
They always, they like their little safe space, so they...
Mitch Breinig is one of the lucky ones. If not for his coworkers, then for his farm's continued success, despite what others see.
I have a market, and thank goodness I have a market, because some farmers haven't been so lucky.
He said big markets started closing about 3 years ago when Canada said they'd stop taking ultra-filtered milk from the U.S. A former high demand seemed to disappear overnight.
And it was really disappointing that, sort of politics came into play and really affected family farms that had been in business for a long, long time.
In terms of our work here.
Today, he hopes signals change for that, with national leaders announcing they're ready to vote on a new trade agreement with Mexico, our #1 dairy foods exporter, and Canada, our #3. Wisconsin state and national lawmakers are hopeful too. Representative Brian Stiles saying the trade deal is a win for Wisconsin, for our dairy and manufacturing industries, and for middle-class families. Legislators say the deal cuts the Canadian program that blocks some U.S. milk Breinig mentioned and has increased labor and environmental standards. But dairy industry expert Mark Stevenson at the University of Wisconsin-Madison told us over the phone this deal gets us back to where we were with Mexico in the original NAFTA. And since the country had begun to look other places for dairy, more work needs to be done to repair the relationship. That will come from good service.
Just looking to see if the feed is mixed well and
Brought to you by Wisconsin farmers like Breinig.
everything's done right so we can have a nutritious diet in front of our cows.
He knows it'll take work, but with an agreement in place, the future for him and his coworkers will hopefully be brighter.
Anything that we can do to have a higher milk price really makes a difference on our family's farm and investing for the future and being able to stay in business.
Dairy is just a small piece of this agreement, but other trade deals are helping the industry too, including a somewhat recent agreement with Japan that Stevenson said is in its first phase of implementation.
The CDC and FDA are investigating a multi-state E. coli outbreak. Officials believe the likely source of that outbreak is the Fresh Express sunflower crisp chopped salad kit. The CDC says 8 people from Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota have been infected.
A daycare center in Belleville is closing its doors at the end of the month. La Petite Academy of Belleville said they've decided not to renew their lease. One parent said it is leaving about 25 families in need of childcare. With only one other daycare center in Belleville that's nearly at full capacity, families are now left trying to find an alternative.
It puts a lot of pressure on everyone, considering Belleville is growing. So, you know, everyone's kind of scrambling to figure out what they should do.
She said many of the families she is trying to help are on wait lists right now and may be waiting months while she figures out how to get all families the care they need.
After a year of searching for what would become Baraboo's only homeless shelter, a location has now been selected. The city hasn't had a shelter since March of 2018. The new location, currently a vacant building on Silver Circle. The almost 5,000 square foot building will have 30 clients, men, women, and children. The hope is to have it open by the spring. Still ahead tonight, how long we can expect this cold snap to stick around.
But first, NOAA is out with its annual Arctic report card today. We'll have the findings when we come back. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed received the Nobel Peace Prize today in Oslo. Ahmed was announced as the recipient of the award in October as a result of his efforts in ending Ethiopia's 20-year war with Eritrea. The conflict between the two countries over disputed border territory led to huge financial and humanitarian cost for both. The non-binary pronoun they has been named Merriam-Webster's Word of the Year. The American English Dictionary revealed that searches for the term have risen by 313% in just the last year. Merriam-Webster said in a statement that the Word of the Year winner was determined by data. The Collins Dictionary named climate strike as its word of the year last month, while climate emergency topped Oxford Dictionary's list of most popular terms in 2019.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has released its annual Arctic report card detailing the effects of climate change. Scientists say ice in the Arctic is melting at an alarming rate. According to the report card, average temperatures in the Arctic were the second warmest recorded since 1900, when record-keeping started. The unprecedented warming and low levels of sea ice is now endangering marine species and commercial fisheries.
The bigger picture reveals significant warming trends in average sea surface temperatures across nearly all of the summer ice-free regions of the Arctic.
New research also finds Greenland's ice sheet is melting 7 times faster than in the 1990s. The ice loss could contribute to widespread coastal flooding in the years to come.
The Clean Lakes Alliance is kicking off its 8th annual Mendota Freeze Contest. Anyone is able to guess the official ice on date for Lake Mendota with a chance to win a prize. Last year, the lake officially froze over on January 10th, which is one of the latest days in the nearly 160 years it has been tracked. UW limnologists believe Lake Mendota could begin having winters where it doesn't freeze over entirely as early as this year, or at least within the next decade.
Just another indication, Gary, of how winter has changed in southern Wisconsin the last 50 years.
And it's not just here, you know, losing that ice in the Arctic regions kind of limits the pool of cold air that we have that comes down during the winter. So we still get cold snaps, but they just don't last as long and aren't as intense. And if you take a look at winters as a whole, the staff over at Climate Central put together this map that shows just how winters have warmed. And here's a scale on the side. You can see generally when you start getting in the oranges and reds, you're talking about winter temperatures that have warmed a good 3 to 7 degrees just since 1970. This area up across northwestern Wisconsin, north central Minnesota, over 7-degree temperature rise just over that time period. Much of southern Wisconsin, about 3 to 5 degree rise. And for Madison itself, we're talking about a 4.6 degree increase in temperatures since 1970. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have cold winters. It just means that they'll be less frequent. Last couple of winters, of course, have been fairly cold, but you can see we've also had some very mild winters as well. And as we take a look at 3 things to know in the forecast, while it'll be very cold again for tomorrow, this will be a short cold snap because we'll, after the cold day tomorrow, look for a warm-up for Thursday and Friday as high temperatures get back up into the upper 30s. Saturday, we'll see some light snow and then turn colder. That cold snap won't be as strong as the one that we're seeing right now. So while a high temperature tomorrow will only reach 18 degrees, we'll be back into the upper 30s for Thursday and Friday. Saturday, the high 32 early and then falling temperatures. And notice the temperatures in the low to mid-20s for the next cold snap. And then as we head toward the end of next week, temperatures will be back into the lower 30s. Time-lapse from the WISC Skycam looking out toward the west shows a few clouds this morning, then mostly clear skies for much of the day. By sunset, a few clouds started to show up on the western horizon. And skies are generally clear across southern Wisconsin with just a few scattered clouds. High today, 20 degrees, the low temperature, 10. And that's where we are right now. That's where we were early this morning. So our temperature may drop below that 10-degree reading before midnight. Winds are out of the west at 8 miles per hour, and that drops our wind chill to 2 degrees below zero. A lot of snow cover still on the ground to our north and west. So whenever the winds are out of the west or northwest, that brings it right across the snow cover. And even though we don't have much, if any, across much of southern Wisconsin from Madison southward, that just doesn't lessen the cold air blast. Low temperatures this morning in the single digits below zero to our north and west. Here in Madison, we're at 10, and that's also our low for the day. High temperatures stayed in the single digits across northern Minnesota. And here are current temperatures already down to 12 below zero in Brainerd, Minnesota, 8 below zero in Superior, 2 below zero is nearby as Marshfield. And then you factor in the winds, and we're seeing wind chills right now between 10 and 20 below zero from La Crosse northward. And there are wind chill advisories through tomorrow morning for much of northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and northern Minnesota. So the cold air really not all that far away. Our forecast calls for mostly clear skies to turn partly cloudy by tomorrow morning. Low temperature in Madison dropping dropping to 6 wind chills by morning, down to about 10 below zero. Tomorrow, look for a mostly sunny and very cold day with a high temperature of 18. Wind chills at times could be down around 5 to 10 degrees. Future track, skies turn partly cloudy overnight and then clear out for tomorrow with a high temperature of 18. Tomorrow night, clouds move in and temperatures actually rise so that by Thursday morning, we're looking at temperatures already in the lower 20s. They'll continue to rise on Thursday with some light snow, mainly north of Madison. High temperature topping out in the upper 30s. And as we take a look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, look for high temperatures in the upper 30s for Friday as well. Saturday, that transition day, high of 32 early with falling temperatures, and then a brief shot of cold air for the early part of next week. Not as intense as what we've seen in the last couple of days. And by the end of the week, we're back into the low 30s with maybe a chance for some flurries or a little freezing drizzle as temperatures start to warm up.
One more day.
One more day. Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Coming up, the Badger wrestling team wants to knock your socks off when they open their home schedule. It's not what you might think. Kevin will explain next.
Next Thursday, the Wisconsin wrestling team opens the home schedule with a dual match against Kent State. And they want to knock your socks off, almost literally. It's the sock toss. Now, you've heard of teddy bear tosses at hockey games. Other teams collect coats, hats, and gloves. The Badgers head coach, Chris Bono, says we don't need to forget about the feet and the toes.
Well, you've seen people donate coats. You've seen people donate hats. You know, how about socks? You know, I think that it'll be a big hit. And, you know, it's something that's, you know, relatively inexpensive that people can donate versus, you know, going to get a coat or or something like that. So there's a need for it, believe it or not, and it'll be a neat little event. You know, if that doesn't get people out there, I don't know what will, right?
The challenge for a local television station is finding different video of really good players. So when they make news, you don't just run the same stuff over and over. There's plenty of Jonathan Taylor footage to be had. Named a first-team All-American today by the Football Writers Association, it's his second straight first-team selection to this team and won't be the last All-American squad he makes. Taylor went for more than 1,900 yards, 26 total touchdowns, said he's definitely playing in the Rose Bowl and not skipping it to prepare for the NFL. Well, at Men's Basketball Media Day, the players told us the most important thing about Saturday's win over Indiana is that it's a win. The Badgers snapped a 3-game skid with a conference opening W. They can make that 2 in a row with sneaky tough road game at Rutgers tomorrow night against the Scarlet Knights team that's 6-0 at home.
They're fast. They're a solid team. I know they like to get to the hoop a lot. They got guys who can shoot as well, so it'd be a tough task for us defensively. But I think we've been playing good transition D for the most part all year. I think we're going to have to do a better job of keeping them out of the paint. Indiana got in the paint a little bit too much in the second half, but overall we just got to keep that aggressive mindset on offense and just bring that same defensive energy we've been bringing.
Boys basketball, unbeaten Stoughton taking on Edgewood. Second quarter, Edgewood's Michael Regnier finds Ben Newton. Catch, release, rattles it home for the three. Crusaders within 3. Later on, Stoughton's Adam Hobson. The thievery pushing it to Luke Fernholz. Easy deuce off glass. Vikings increasing a lead in the second half, and then Stoughton with some good ball movement. Cale McGee to Fernholz again. Buckets. Vikings win this one 49-39. Oregon girls hosting the Division III 5th-ranked Edgewood Crusaders. First half, Oregon offense, Izzy Peterson, Caitlin Schrimpf. Corner 3 is good. Panthers down by 1, but they put a run together. Later on, great ball movement from Edgewood. Baluk Dang, Sarah Lazar. Crusaders in a back-and-forth game, but Oregon comes back and takes the exit off the highway to upset City. Panthers win a close one, 56-48 over Edgewood. Now we need this. We really need this to blow off some steam at the office. Some little axe throwing. The World Championships held right outside Tucson, Arizona. More than 250 ranges bid on the contest. 64 throwers took part. 64 is the score you get in a perfect game of axe throwing, if you didn't know. Sam Carter, your champion for the record. He wins the coveted axe trophy and $15,000. It's good money. Stick around. We finish up after the break.
Well, there are temperatures here in Madison. We're at 10, but it's colder than that toward the north and west, and wind chills now are dropping below 0. So look for a high of 18 for tomorrow with an alert day for the cold, but back to the upper 30s Thursday and Friday, maybe some light snow and falling temperatures Saturday, and quiet weather for next week, but it will be on the cold side.
Gary, thanks. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 10.
Do something good, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.